The show starts in 3, 2, 1, go.
Good morning, CaneSport. It's the 2nd of April, 2025. I'm Gary Ferman, the publisher of CaneSport.com, joined this morning by the other members of our CaneSport Morning Comedy Hour team, Matt Shodell and Izubee Expo Charles, as we discuss the news of the day. And no, this is not April Fool's Day. Izubee's wearing an Expo hat. Okay, don't let me explain that one. I won't. Don't ask me to explain it, rather. I will not. Probably because he wakes up with messed up hair and doesn't want you to see it. But anyway, guys, the continuation of spring practice. We've got basketball recruiting cranking into high gear. So we got a few interesting things to talk about. But I would be remiss if I didn't start the show out by bringing the focus to Matt Shodell, because what better thing is there to talk about at 5 o'clock in the morning than the antics of Matt Shodell? So we go out to practice yesterday, and we're watching, the early stages of practice, and they're running around like they usually do. They are doing individual drills. They're relatively nondescript. Okay, if you were watching these drills, and we put the videos on our YouTube channel for you from time to time when we are allowed to film. And you guys can see they're pretty normal, basic football drills, which is why, of course, Mario Cristobal allows us to film them, because there's nothing in there that anybody is going to be stealing or getting a competitive advantage from. So there's not a whole hell of a lot going on. And we're sitting there, and Matt and I were talking about all different crazy subjects. 9 o'clock by 9 o'clock in the morning, Matt is in midday form. Okay, this is a guy, as you know, that is up here with me at 5 o'clock in the morning almost every day, and so he's had his cafecito and whatever else he injects in his veins is well in place, and he's in the middle of his day and he's raring to go. So I see Matt sitting there typing on his phone. I'm like, what the hell is he doing? And he's like frantically typing on his phone. And then when I get back to the office later and I go on our CaneSport.com message boards, I start to understand what exactly it was that Matt was up to. Okay. And I see a thread that he started at 9:24 a.m. called Today's Practice. And you guys know Matt by now, how dedicated he is to you guys, our CaneSport.com audience and the Canes Nation. And he's looking to supply you guys with every detail of practice. So I saw today's practice. So I open up Matt's thread about today's practice. Okay. And then I see that Matt literally was spamming his own thread on today's practice, not letting anybody get a word in whatsoever. Nobody's allowed to ask a question. He's just spamming this thing in post after post after post after post. Okay. So he starts out, CJ Daniels getting work. Looks good running around out here. Teams in shorts and uppers. Okay. He got himself 3 thumbs up for that post. Then Beck doing his usual rehab on the side. Anderson overthrew his first pass to JoJo in warmups. Otherwise, the quarterbacks look good. Okay, Poyser looks great, but did drop an interception in early DB drills. We did notice that Zachariah Poyser does not have the greatest hands in the world, which is why he's playing DB. But I'll chime in here and tell you guys, this kid's going to be a good safety for Miami this year. Very smart. Clearly masters the defense very quickly, is in position. I don't want to jinx it, but seems to be in position all the time, which is not something we saw on a regular basis always last year. But he has really stood out to us so far in spring practice. Ethan O'Connor, who's a cornerback, had a drop, and Poyser drops another off his hands. This is Matt spamming his own threads. Lots of walkthrough stuff today with the scrimmage coming Saturday. And then he actually gives you guys some good information. He sees Lucas and OJ as the cornerback starters. I'll second that. Damari and Brantley fighting it out to be the nickel corner. So yeah, I would agree with that. Said he's not sold on the safeties. I'm sold on Poyser. The question is going to be Zaquan Patterson learning this defense, establishing himself, and winning a competition against what I believe will be somebody coming from the transfer portal to compete with him here in a few weeks. And it goes on and on. You guys can read it for yourself. But literally, Matt made about, I'd say, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, about maybe 12, 13 posts before anybody else got a chance to get a word in. So Matt, we'll start out by thanking you for that intense message board thread that you provided all of us yesterday morning. And I'll start out the show by asking you, so what do you think about what you're seeing at spring practice?
I mean, I think you just spammed Izubee and me by talking for 6 straight minutes.
Wow, I really did, didn't they? God, that was a 6-minute opening. Wow.
6 minutes of my life I can't get back.
Guilty. Hey, I could be Cory Booker and go on the and talk for 21 hours straight and demand the people listen to me. I could do that. I could do that too, Matt. I could talk for 21.
Don't mention a politician's name. People get very upset. You mention a politician's name.
I'm not siding with Democrats or Republicans.
No,
like you, I am an independent voter. Okay, but I like 21 hours straight. It's speaking on the Senate floor with nobody listening. Matt, I'm not sure you could pull that off.
I don't know if you know this, but Elon Musk actually publicized your ballot, Gary. And I don't know, you wrote in Mario Cristobal as president. I saw it. I saw your ballot. You wrote in Mario Cristobal as president of the United States. Don't lie. Anyway, I'm going to spam you guys because this is true. And this is my whole perspective on spring practice. With, Gary, this guy looks good. That guy, it's all nonsense, right? You see this window behind me? It's covered by a shade, but there's a window behind the shade, believe it or not. I'm not exposed to the open air. And outside that window, there's a nest, and there's a bird in that nest, and that bird's been sitting on these 2 eggs on that nest for about a month straight. That's not even a joke. I thought it was pigeons because they've been on my deck in the past, and I bought owls with spinning heads that are actually solar-powered owls that spin and flash their eyes. It turns out they're not pigeons. They're called mourning doves. I thought that meant morning, M-O-R-N-I-N-G, but it's not. It's morning, M-O-U-R-N-I-N-G, and I think it's because they have like a 60% mortality rate. The same mortality rate as the Miami Hurricanes over the last 2 decades. Just a coincidence there. But this bird has been sitting out there on these 2 eggs literally for a month. It looks like a pigeon. It's called the mourning dove. And, I'm just waiting. I'm just waiting to see if these eggs hatch and if these birds fall out of the tree and I have to double garbage bag them up and throw them in the recycling bin. Do you recycle birds or do you throw them in the garbage? I'm putting them in the recycling bin. I'm gonna hope they have some sort of miraculous recovery and are recycled again. Or maybe they'll fly away. And that's like the Miami Hurricanes. We're waiting for this team to hatch. We do not know if this team's going to fall off the tree and splat all over the ground and we all vomit on it, which is pretty much what I do before I pick it up in the garbage bag. Because I've had to pick up dead birds before. It's disgusting. Okay. Will they be a vomitorium in Coral Gables? Which, by the way, I was a classics English major, double major in college, and a vomitorium, people think it's a place where you vomit. It's actually not where you vomit, believe it or not. You can look it up. But regardless, we don't know. And the funny thing to me is, people on the thread you were mentioning, right? Somebody's like, "Oh my gosh, you were so positive." Is this in April?
Oh, you mean we eventually got to a point where somebody else got the comment? Okay.
One person comments. They said, is this an April Fool's joke that you're so positive about the team? And this is what makes me crazy. Because we're expected to sit here and just say how great everything is, because that's what everyone else does, right? It's just like you mentioned politics, Gary. The Democrats say everything is great that they do, and the Republicans say everything's great that they do. When in reality, I think they're both awful, but you guys can make your own decision.
I said that the Jay Lucas hire was a risky hire for Miami, which it absolutely is. He's never been a head coach.
This podcast.
No, but I'm just saying, I got crucified by a couple people for that.
This is what I'm saying. It's God forbid. You don't follow the party line, right? So this isn't Democrat or Republican. This is Miami Hurricanes. And Miami Hurricanes is a political party, essentially, right? Alabama has its political party. Ohio State does. And you can't say anything that is remotely negative about your political party, right? Think about it. If you're watching this today and you're a hardcore Democrat, you probably don't like what the Republicans do and you love everything the Democrats do. And if you're a hardcore Republican watching this show this morning, You probably think everything the Republicans do is great and everything the Democrats do is terrible. And that's why I think sometimes when we say something on here, it's almost like this politicized thing in society now, where reporters are the ones that are blamed for saying something might not be great. So when we sit here and say, oh, this doesn't look great or that doesn't look great, and all the other podcasters out there say everything looks great, because you know what? It's easy to sit here and say things look great because it makes fans happy, right? If the Democrats told their base, man, we screwed everything up, we're terrible, the Democrats wouldn't like that. That's what we're doing. We're not pandering to our base, Gary and Izubee. We need to start pandering to the base. So the Miami Hurricanes are going to fly off of the nest, and they're going to go up into the sky, and they're going to eat all the Alabama pigeons and eat all the Ohio State Hawks and emerge victorious. Like, that's what we want us to say. But the truth is, this spring has looked a lot like previous springs. There's nothing that I've seen this spring where like, oh, that's different, or oh, this looks a lot better. Is the team on task? Yes. Do they not look size-wise like I think Alabama and Ohio State do when you just look at their teams? They do not. Are there guys that are insane freaks? Yes, but a lot of them are true freshmen. Hayden Lowe is like the freakiest true freshman I think I've ever seen. Like, he literally picked up Matthew McCoy and threw him 10 yards yesterday. So like, you look at some of these guys and you say the potential's there, but they haven't played yet. They haven't done it. And and Mario's still in love with the portal, where you're going to have probably 8 to 10 starters that are portal guys from other programs that aren't Miami guys, that have been coached over 2, 3, 4 years by Miami. And like, they could drop off the nest. They could fly off, and we don't know, and nobody knows. So if you guys are watching other podcasts, good for you, because you'll be a lot happier. But like, they're just, from what I've heard, they're just pie in the sky. They don't ever say anything negative about anybody or the program, which is fine. But like, the truth is, it's somewhere in the middle. There's some good, there's some bad.
I mean, we're 3 weeks in now, and in fairness to you, I think there's a lot of positive, and I think there's a few things to be concerned about. Just watching what we've watched and talking to a lot of people along the way, I think there's a marked change on the defensive side of the ball. I mean, those kids seem to know what they are doing way better than what we saw last year, and are making a lot of plays. I've heard there've been some very, very good defensive back days on the practice field, and I was actually telling that to somebody, and the next question they had for me was, yeah, but what is it against? Like, what receivers are we rolling out there that they're doing this against? There's no Jacoby George, there's no Xavier Restrepo, no Sam Brown.
Who said that to you? Do you remember? Me. I said that to you.
Oh, it was you? Oh, okay.
Yes.
Oh, I didn't remember that. I tried to forget that it was you, but I mean, it was a legitimate point. I mean, it really was like that. And that's why nobody really, really, really knows. Oh God, now I'm sounding like Wagner. Really, really, really. But nobody really, 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 really knows until August, when you line up against Florida. But, my feeling would be that what we have heard about the transfer portal and the agenda there, kind of has some salt to it. I mean, I think they need another safety to compete with Zaquan Patterson. I don't think there's any question Poiser is going to be one of the starters. I think you need another safety to compete with Zaquan Patterson. I think you need a linebacker to compete with Popo Aguirre and Wesley Basainth and those young guys. I personally would get another defensive tackle if I could find a monster out there. And I'm talking about better than Simeon Barrow, which was last year's, find in the portal. I think you got to.
Gary, we've already been over this. At what point does Miami say, "Hey, our young guys are good enough"? Right? All that.
Well, when they are good enough, Matt. When they're good enough, you want to sit there and beat your chest and say, "I have recruited a good enough football team out of the high school ranks," and then watch yourself lose 4 or 5 games in the fall, and everyone wants everybody fired. I mean, you have to be able to detach emotionally from that if you're Mario Cristobal and his staff, and you got to be able to say, like, we need these things to go be the team we want to be in September, and then you got to have the budget to go get them. So, before you interrupted me, I was saying defensive tackle. I think I think that there's no proof in the pudding at all. And I'm back in what you just set up in your speech a few minutes ago. Like, what proof is there that Justin Scott is going to be good enough to be a forceful defensive tackle this fall? I mean, there's zero. Okay, like zero. Artavius Jones, is there any proof whatsoever that he's ready to now step in and be part of a rotation? No. We've heard David Blay is going to be a solid member of the rotation and complement Moten, obviously really, really well. And but we haven't seen it. I mean, he came from Louisiana, right? Like we don't know how good he's really, 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 really going to be. So I have no problem.
Just so you know, what you're doing is called circular logic, because by your literal, what you're saying is Miami can never, ever start young players who have no experience because they have no experience, so you don't know what they are. So you always got to go in the portal, which makes
I think they're going to start JoJo Trader. I think we're going to see JoJo Trader in the starting lineup this fall.
You need to have en masse. You can't keep having 10 portal starters. There was 11 starters last year that were from the portal. I mean, at some point, you just got to say our recruiting's good enough, our development's good enough, bam. And guess what? This is year 3 on these guys, right? Like, it should be this year, but it probably won't be. So now it has to be next year. But at some point, it has to be the case.
Let me show you why what you're saying is totally ridiculous. Let's say they didn't go get James Brockmeyer in the transfer portal. Okay, let's say they didn't do that. Okay, and now you're starting Ryan Rodriguez or Nino Francavilla, who's never played. You just to spite yourself and say, I am going to put my homegrown guy in that spot. You got a guy that's played multiple years in the SEC that, from all that I'm seeing in spring practice, is an absolute stud center, maybe the best of the 3 transfer portal centers they've brought in when you factor in Matt Lee and Carpenter from last year. And I'm seeing a complete stud. I'm like, wow, this is going to be a home run portal get. And why would you spite yourself if you can bring in the talent that's better than what you have on the roster? Those young guys, the onus is on them to get good enough. I mean, it's not like it's not possible for a young guy to emerge and be great. I mean, you watch Josh Moore out there. He's got potential to do that. So the point I'm making is that you have to, as a coach in today's world of football, be able to detach from all the nonsense, be willing to say, I am not good enough at this position, and then inspire your collective to have the budget to allow you to go out and get it. Now, a defensive tackle, that's going to cost you $1 million. If you're going to, Simeon Barrow in today's market might cost $1 million. That's asking a lot by Gary Ferman. Okay. Like I'm saying, I think you need another stud defensive tackle. And it's easy for me to say, and you guys go spend $1 million on a defensive tackle. So, there will be those kind of discussions, no question about it. Like, do we spend $1 million or do we count on Justin Scott being good enough? I mean, those are the decisions they have to make. But Izubee,
hold on a second, because I need to.
No, I'm letting Izubee participate in the show. He hasn't said a word in 18 minutes. Okay,
but I'm going to come back to it. I'm going to come back to it.
Perfect transition to include Izubee in this conversation. So will you please be quiet?
I've spoken, just for the record, I've spoken 6 minutes, and you
know
said
how hard it is for him to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning, and you don't want to let him say a word. I'm letting him say a word. Izubee, back me up here. You got to be willing to detach from your pride. You can't beat your chest on your recruiting chops, and make solid football evaluations on what you have on your roster and what you need to go into a football season if you're going to be successful in today's game.
All right, now it's my time for my 6-minute rant real quick.
And there you go.
Kinda, just like how I'm in the middle, you guys, I'm kind of split on, both of what you guys are saying with this, because I agree with Gary. If you need a center like James Brockmeyer, you're not going to say, we brought in Nico Francavilla. He has to be our guy. Obviously, he doesn't have the reps or the pull or anything like that. So you have to bring a guy like James. But on the flip side, I do agree with Matt with saying, Justin Scott's a 5-star guy. You have to someday let him off the chain, let him off the leash, and see what he can do. I feel like at that position, that's one where you can kind of test the waters a little bit because just of how highly rated of a guy was. And I don't what you call him at the end of the circle of what? I forgot what you said.
It's a circular logic.
circular logic. I feel like that does make a lot of sense with these young guys too. But I feel like it comes down to just how confident are you on guys. Like I said, I'd rather start, Justin Scott over Nico Francovelli at two different positions. But if I have to go get a James Brockemeyer, who is one of the best centers in the portal, I'll definitely go do that and upgrade those positions. So I just feel like it comes down to what guys you trust to really put in those positions. Because last year coming in, JoJo was a guy that you could trust to put in a position to play wide receiver, not be like, oh my God, he's going to mess up. And there's other guys that you wouldn't dare to put on the field in their first year. Obviously, this year, I feel like there's a lot more guys that can, be placed in the field and be trusted. But if there's a position that you really need to tackle, I don't think you have to, beat your chest and say, hey, no, we recruited this guy. He has to play. I definitely say go get in the portal. But certain guys are going to produce in certain ways. But a little rant on that. But also going back to the Expos, rest in peace to the Expos. Opening day was here. I know Miami Hurricanes baseball isn't the best, but the pros are kicking. So that's why I'm wearing this hat. And like you said, when I wake up this early, hair is a little messy, so I wouldn't want to scare you guys like that.
All right,
now,
I didn't
now
interrupt
can
you.
Now can I speak for 2
No,
minutes?
not yet. I'm still talking to Izubee. Okay,
Wow.
just 1 second, Matt. 1 second. Okay, so all right. So you kind of half agreed with me, but let me make this point. Do you throw Pancake out there, Samson Okinola, on the offensive line before he's not ready, before he was a 5-star? I mean, I don't. I think that the 5 stars, thing carries weight until they step foot on college campuses, because a lot of those 5 stars are not ready to play coming out of high school, even though they were 5 stars. And we've seen it, unfortunately, many times over here at the U. And so I do think they will use the portal, just to put a bow on this subject. I do think they'll use the portal. I do think they'll make those evaluations. I do think they challenge themselves in that way. I personally hope they go far enough, because the expectations are for this program to continue making forward steps. Enormous amount of money is being invested in Miami football, not just in NIL, but facilities and things like that. And I think it's important for Mario and his team to continue to show forward progress, which is easier said than done, coming off a Cam Ward freak show of 2024 that they messed up. So they're going to need the best team they can put out there. I think it's going to need to have some fortifications from the portal. That said, there is a lot to be excited about in spring practice, and we'll talk more about it here over the next few weeks as things wrap up. They're getting into the nitty gritty now. They've been through a few weeks of practice. I think they're going to practice number 10, I believe, is the next one. So it's getting near the end, and we'll have a lot more to talk about that. Go ahead, Matt.
I mean, I know you're angry that Hooters is closing, but it's not my fault. I'm not the one who closed Hooters. I'm the one who closed Hooters, okay? I'm not the one who made them bankrupt.
Hooters is closing?
Well, they went bankrupt. I assume they're going to close.
The whole company went bankrupt? That's
Has
amazing.
that been in the news recently, or am I making this up?
I didn't see that, but I find that to be amazing. I've never gone by any Hooters and it not been packed.
Yeah, I mean, they filed for bankruptcy. I mean, they were apparently their only draw was the chicken wings, right? Is that all that people only went there for the chicken wings, right? So
Well, the fries aren't bad.
So listen, it's too late. I'm not going to tell you my gem of knowledge anymore. You don't deserve it. No, I'll tell you what. I'll tell you what I was going to. Here, it was a simple thing I was going to say, which is I understand your point, right? But when you buy a stock, and maybe you bought stock in Hooters, Gary, and now you have no money left. Maybe that's why you're so upset. I don't know. But when you buy a stock in a company, generally most people are buying it for more than 1 year, not just for tax reasons, right? Because this is your investment for the future, right? And if you're going to invest for the future at Miami, okay, portal guys generally are 1 year fixes, right? Oh, we missed at this position. We're screwed. We need this guy to start. When you do that, fine. I get it. But if you don't reach your goal that season, if you don't make the playoffs, which is your goal, which has now happened every year of Mario's tenure here, and when you give thousands of reps to guys who are 1 year fixes, okay, you're wasting the 200 plus reps you're going to see the young guys play. And that doesn't just help those younger players develop. It also helps the coaches see how those players play in real game situations, which is different than practice situations for a lot of guys. And that's the missing piece. That's why the circular logic doesn't work. Because if you continually are doing that, you're never going to get those young guys to 200 plus reps that are freshmen, that are redshirt freshmen, that are true sophomores. because you keep saying, oh, well, the older guys are going to be better. We need help there because we only have inexperienced guys. And at some point, the coaches need to jump off the ledge and say, look, maybe they're good enough, maybe they're not. We need to find out. And I understand in season that can screw you up. But at some point, they need to jump off the ledge. They've been here for 3 years. They've recruited all the guys that are now true juniors. They've developed all the guys that are now true juniors. Next year, they're going to have recruited guys for 4 years. Like if you're in year 4 of a guy that you're paying an $8 million base salary to, and you've given him everything he wants at the program, and he's been here 4 years, and he's still bringing in 10 transfers from other programs to start, I'm not okay with that. Like, that's just me. And I hope that won't be the case in 2026, because 2025 is too late. He's already doing the portal thing again. But I think there's going to be cases where, in retrospect, if this thing does go south, that Mario will look back and fans will look back and say, man, the guy who had never played actually wound up being better than the guy who played. The Jared Harrison Hunt, the Brashard Smith, whoever you want to name. Not that they were better than the guys who actually played, but like those guys who just never got a chance and left, or those guys who were backups and then got 1 year to start and looked really, really good. We didn't need James Brockermeyer because you know what? Ryan Rodriguez is now an NFL center and he's amazing. Like whatever the case is, there's going to be situations like that pop up. Not that one, Gary, but there's going to be situations like that pop up, and fans are going to be like, you know what? Maybe they didn't need all these transfers. Not Ryan Rodriguez. How do we do it, man? How do we do it? That's my guy. That's my guy.
Yeah, I would tell you to go play with your birds outside your window, but we need you to finish the show. All right. So we got to talk to a couple of the coaches after practice yesterday. That was a neat experience. Very impressed with Zach Etheridge and Will Harris, the two defensive back coaches. Urge you guys to read those stories, watch those videos. I think you will come away impressed. And at least from what we have seen, their presence is being felt in a big time way. With all respect to Matt's questions, which are legit. I mean, Miami's receiver position, CJ Daniels has not been out there. You've got a few freshmen who are just learning what they're doing. JoJo Trader, a second-year guy that barely played last year, is considered the alpha dog now of the receiver group. It's a receiver group in development. Oh, by the way, I think they need to go to the portal and add 1 or 2 pieces to that as well. I'm sorry if it might take away a rep or two, from Josh or, Upshaw, who has certainly been impressive in practice. But we also talked to Kevin Beard, and if you listen to him, he talked about some of the growing pains of developing these young guys and how they continue all the installs. And, now you're going from a couple things on day 1 and 2 to a lot of things on day 9 and 10, and their heads are swimming a little bit, and the performances in practice get watered down. It's a natural progression, and true freshmen coming in are very, you get these super freaks every now and then. People try, Ryan. People saw the one-handed catch that Josh Moore made in practice the other day that Miami posted, and now all of a sudden they want to know if he could be like Ryan Williams at Alabama last year. And that's just a natural byproduct of when somebody flashes. But those individual highlights like that are not indicative of the challenges facing those kids. And it's going to be very interesting to see. They will find ways to use those guys. If you think back to Isaiah Horton in his first year, they rolled out a play. I can't remember the game, but I remember the play. And they hit him on a go route up the left sideline at Hard Rock for a touchdown, a deep pass play. And everyone was like, wow, Isaiah Horton, who's this kid? And it came out of nowhere. We're going to see moments like that in the 2025 season. You're going to see Josh Moore do something spectacular. There's no doubt in my mind. You're going to see Malachi Toney do some great things. There's no doubt in my mind. I think you're going to see Dalen Upshaw from Alabama, do some good things and make some contributions from time to time. These are all talented kids. But are we going to see any of them go out there and be alpha dogs from start to finish in a big football game? That I'm not convinced of yet. So Matt's question when we're talking about DBs is legit. painful as it is for me to admit that. But these two coaches that you guys could see from the stories and the videos from yesterday are the real deal. Okay. And they're doing a great job coaching their position groups. The quality of play on the defensive side of the ball is absolutely upgraded from last year. And how much so, we're going to have to wait till the season starts to find out. But it looks different on the practice field, at least to my eyes. So, make sure you guys check that stuff out. But I would be remiss if I didn't mention another one of Matt Shodell's gems after witnessing Kevin Beard's, performance with the media yesterday, and it was very good. He says Kevin Beard should teach a mental well-being course on the side. Yeah. Okay, now how the hell you take out of Kevin Beard's media session with a mental well-being course on the side? I'm going to let you explain. But I was a fan of what KB got done yesterday.
He was talking about the fear of failure and how he helps eliminate that from his young receivers, because honestly, that's what holds back a lot of people in their lives, right? The fear of failure. People don't try things because they're afraid they're not going to be able to do it, and they're going to be disappointed, or they're going to be made fun of, or what. That's what holds everyone back in their lives. So for you not to recognize that that's a well-being issue for every person on the planet Earth, and probably some aliens as well. He put it very. I'll read the quote. Okay, I always try to eliminate the. You should play some national anthem music behind this, maybe. But anyway, I always try to eliminate the fear of failure for them, so that when they do fail, hey, we failed. We don't like it. We have to get better. And how did I fail? Because if I don't know how I failed, then 9 times out of 10, I'll be failing again, more than being successful. But if I learn how to fail, that'll teach me to be successful. The only thing we have to fear is fear itself. Which part of that did he say? That's terrible music. That's really bad. That's like Avicii who killed himself. Don't play that. That's terrible.
How's this one? You know what they call this one?
No.
You know what this song is called? Feeding the Birds. In honor of your backyard. Feeding the Birds.
No.
How's that? No?
No.
Just
forget it. It's over. The segment's over.
Are we trying to find the right music for you?
You know what? Cut out the Ryan Rodriguez thing. I said, cut this whole music thing out. Make the video just your first 12 minutes talking without anyone else talking, and be done with it.
How's that? Does that give you the energy you were looking for?
No.
All right, go ahead.
Oh, I was trying to read what Kevin Beard said, but now it's too late because you ruined it with horrible, club music.
All right, so while I was entertaining myself with Matt's takes from practice, I did come across this, which I thought was really, really cool. And this is a picture that Gerard Pringle posted on his Instagram.
Handing. Don't put that over Izubee. Don't put that over Izubee. Put it over me.
I can't move it. That's where they put it.
Oh, there we go. I'm with you, Izubee.
That's Gerard Pringle with the keys to a new car that he got for his mom, and I think that's kind of cool. These kids are all being given a lot of money. A kid like Gerard Pringle, probably coming out of high school, $200,000.
I can't let you continue, Gary. If my son brought home a Jaguar for me, I would tell him go return it. I don't need a Jaguar. Get me a Toyota.
Well, I mean.
If my 18 or 19-year-old son came home and said, "I got a gift for you," no, like a house is one thing. You don't need a Jag. That's just my opinion. I don't drive fancy cars. I wouldn't. If I was Elon Musk, I wouldn't drive a fancy car. I don't care if I have all the money in the world. It's the only thing that definitely will depreciate. That you definitely will not have a good investment in.
A lot.
So it makes no sense for a young person to do that.
But I thought it was interesting in the sense that, these kids are now, I mean, the NIL this year is probably double what it was last year. And the budgets are continuously going up. These kids are getting paid a lot of money. You got revenue sharing getting ready to kick in. And to say it's a whole new world, I mean, that would be an old cliche. But I mean, I think this is the new reality. I mean, I think we're going to start seeing this a lot. And Izubee, you cover recruiting. I mean, I've noticed this, like these high school kids being recruited. I mean, and the way some of these parents are involved in in managing it and stuff, like you could see like this is a whole different deal now. This is like the young kid growing up, being able to do something very early in life, significant for his family. And I get what Matt's saying, and it. Yeah, I mean, but these, like, you could see like Gerard Pringle was like really proud that he was able. This is a kid he should still be in high school. Okay, I mean, he left early to come be a football player at Miami. He is able to get his mom the car of her dreams because of what NIL is doing for him. And I don't know, Izubee, you're a kid, man. You gotta give us some perspective on this. I think it's kind of cool.
No, I think it's awesome because this is something that you would see like NFL players would do. Like once you get to the NFL, I got my mom her dream car, her dream house. But like you said, now in this day and age of NIL, you could do that, a few weeks on the campus, in your freshman year when you could still be in high school. And obviously, like you said, I feel like this is a really special moment for Gerard Pringle because throughout his recruitment, he always mentioned how big his family was to him and how important they played in his recruitment. And every time he came down to the University of Miami, his entire family was there with him. I set my camera. His entire family was there with him, and just being so young and being able to do that, like you mentioned, to still be in high school is just probably just an awesome feeling. And those are the feel good stories that you see with NIL. Obviously, there's a lot of cloudiness and a lot of bad things that we hear that comes from it. But seeing a young man like that being able to give his mom something that he's always probably wished for is just great to see, and just a feel good story for sure.
Now I retract my prior statement.
I'm about to give it some respect. I'm about to give it some respect. Okay. In fairness to Matt, like, what happens if 4 years from now Gerard Pringle isn't good enough to go into the National Football League? He might wish he had that $70,000 back, and it is going to depreciate. And that $70,000 car, I don't know if he's leasing it or paying for it. He might even be getting it in a separate NIL deal for all we know, and it might not be costing him a penny, quite honestly, if his agents are really good. And he told them, listen, I want a Jaguar from my mom. Go get it, and maybe they did get an NIL deal like that for him. But let's, for the sake of the discussion, assume he bought this, $70,000 Jaguar or whatever it cost or whatever. I mean, it's going to be worth $25,000 in 4 years. It's going to depreciate. So what Matt's saying is not, so crazy. Like, what if he doesn't make the National Football League? He might wish he had that $50,000 that he spent on the Jaguar.
And honestly, it's not even that. It's also the whole locker room aspect. It's the haves and the have-nots. Not everybody in the Miami locker room, believe it or not, gets $500,000 to sign with Miami or whatever it is. And when you're driving around in a Jaguar and your teammate doesn't, is riding a scooter or whatever, I mean, not that there's jealousy. Jealousy doesn't exist in the real world, right? But like, you want harmony. You want people to sort of be on the same page with each other. And I don't know. I just don't know how that plays out in a locker room with a bunch of 18-year-olds who want to say, look what I did, look what I have, which is normal. I mean, that's what kids do, right? Look what I have. Check out my newest gadget, come for a ride in whatever Lamborghini, or whatever it is.
Say, Carson Beck better play pretty damn well in August if he's driving around in a Lambo.
Yeah, but you know what I'm saying.
Here's the thing, Matt. He gets paid no matter what, though, also. Like,
right.
No matter how good.
Right, I don't know how
$4 million plus. He's still driving the Lambo.
Right. The guys with the Rolexes in the locker room and the guy with the digital watch in the locker room. I don't know how that plays. They're doing the same work. They're killing their bodies. They're all doing the same thing in practice. Just, one of them was a touted top prospect, and one of them is just a third teamer, We may never see anybody handle it better than Cam Ward did last year. Yeah, that Cam Ward is a special that kid person. Is something else. Amazing. And you know what? That's the key. To me, that's the key is you give. to your teammates. Not you give to your mom, of course, but you give to your teammates. Like Gerard Pringle, get everybody on the. If you have that much money that you can, buy people cars, get everyone on the team $1,000 gift. Who doesn't like that? That's your 85 grand right there.
Mom and dad are never going to have to work again. There's no question about it.
Yeah.
But
by the way, that's what Cam Ward did. Took his linemen to fancy dinners, treated them to the fancy dinners, bought everybody, got everyone Bose headphones through his NIL deals, whatever it was. Like he took care of his teteammates. He took care of his offensive linemen, and they loved him for it. But
and Carson Beck did have a Super Bowl party, by the way.
Yeah, he did. He did. He made everyone bring their own food, but he did have a Super Bowl party, which is fabulous. And and that's the thing for Carson. Like he has to. That's why I hope he and Cam do communicate about things aside from football, because like if Carson gets his offensive linemen each some gift, something to show his appreciation, do it for all the offensive players, do it for the defensive players too, whatever it is, that ingratiates those players to you. It shows you care. As dumb as it is with a material object, it shows that you care about them, right? You're taking your own money that you could have spent on whoever else, and you are putting it towards them, and you're buying them a thoughtful gift. And then on top of that, next time you go to a player and you say, listen, man, I really want you to do this for me because I don't want to be, having another UCL surgery, right? Or whatever it is. Like they will listen a lot more than you're this perceived aloof guy who lives off campus, who is trying to get with all different girls, or whatever the hell the perception is of Carson Beck among his haters. Like that is the real Carson Beck. That's what these players need to view Carson Beck as, is a leader, a giving guy, cares about his teammates, period. And then you go from there. Like that's huge.
All right. So I thought that was kind of cool. That's why I brought it up. And lastly today, basketball recruiting is, really cranking up now. The portal's been open for a week. We've decided to put Izubee in the lab to unearth what Jay Lucas is up to here. And Coach Lucas has been kind of like, I seen a video or two of him asking people to buy tickets, but he's been kind of like, no one, you don't see him walking around campus or anything. He's not getting smoothies at Smoothie King like Jim Larinaga used to. At least he hasn't been seen doing so. He's working this recruiting thing, Izubee, and you were able to uncover a lot of kids that Miami basketball is taking a look at right now. And things have got to be starting to get to the nitty gritty. I know you've got an idea of who you think the first commitment is going to be from the portal. We're going to give you the floor here for a few minutes. Your story is on the website for those of you that are interested in basketball recruiting. Make sure you check that out. Izubee goes in depth into all of these kids that Miami basketball is looking at. But give us your synopsis of Miami's basketball recruiting effort under their new head coach at the moment.
Yeah, like you mentioned, Jay Lucas, isn't on campus getting smoothies. There was an actual video that Miami dropped with him, just him talking on the phone all day long. And obviously that's, calling recruits and different coaches to try to get a pulse of things. And, I know a lot of other teams are, landing commitments in the transfer portal right now. Miami doesn't happen. But like you mentioned, I do think the first one is a guy that, entered yesterday. And it's Pittsburgh shooting guard Jalen Lowe, who has a lot of connections to the Lucas family and Jay Lucas. Jay Lucas's dad, John Lucas, is actually his godfather. So he's known him his entire life. And he's a guy that, averaged 16 points per game last year at Pittsburgh, one of the best guards in the transfer portal. And he entered the portal actually with the do not contact tag. So I'm not a wizard or anything, but I think you can read the tea leaves with there. A guy that you grew up with your entire life becomes a big time coach at a big time program. You're looking for a fresh start. Why not make the trip down to Coral Gables and, check out what the Canes have to offer? And, I think that potentially could be that first guy that Miami lands. It'd be an absolutely massive get for that. So if you go check out, some of his highlights too, he's a big time guy. And then, Miami has their first portal guy locking an official visit. That's a Bosnian shooting guard, Haran Zerno from Bosnia, like I mentioned, was previously committed to Indiana, but he's a 21-year-old guy, older European guy that's actually been playing pro basketball for 5 years, and he'll still have eligibility when he comes to Miami for another 4 years. So he's a guy that says he's down to Miami and Villanova, and had the chance to talk with him a few times. His agent's actually based out of Miami. He's been living in Coral Gables for the last 13 years, so he's very familiar with Lucas. He'd have somebody that he's very comfortable with down here in Miami. So he's another guy that we're watching, has an official visit set for April 18th. And then another South Florida native, Malik Renault out of Indiana, another guy that was for the Hoosiers. Originally played his basketball at Mount Verge from Hialeah, Florida. He's one of the best bigs in the transfer portal action. He's a guy that, has Miami in his top 5. He's kind of being a little bit quiet. Like a lot of these, transfer portal guys that, having everything go through their agent, but he's, made it clear that he's interested in Miami making a homecoming. And, other few guys that we're kind of monitoring right now is Silas Demiri. His coach actually came from Georgia, Eric Pastrana, South Florida native. A lot of like Coach Lucas said during the press conference, he wants to keep a lot of the South Florida talents home, and that's exactly what he's aiming to do with all these kids from across the country, having ties and some type of relationships with the coaches that he's bringing on staff. And another guy that I want to mention that isn't officially on staff, but a lot of people think he's going to be a big part of it, is Andrew Moran, the Columbus High School head coach that is currently finishing off his stint with the Explorers right now. They have the Geico Nationals. He has a lot of connections with a lot of big-time prospects across college basketball. He ran an elite AAU program, which Malik played for in high school, and he knows a lot of guys, trains a lot of professionals, so he has a huge name in the college basketball world. And obviously he's not able to, we won't get into that too much, but he's a guy that I think is going to play a huge part in this recruitment as well. Coach Pastrana as well from Georgia, like I mentioned. Silas is, I believe, a top 15 prospect in the transfer portal, and Miami conducted a Zoom meeting with him, and a few more guys. Marquis Strickland from Western Michigan, another guy that's from Miami. So a common recurring theme here: a lot of guys with a lot of connections to Miami, and then even in the high school ranks, we got Dante Allen, a former Villanova signee, that's going to take an official visit to Miami early April. So, like I've been saying, a lot of connections to Miami. Coach Lucas is definitely working those phones, and a ton of other guys. So make sure to check out that story, and then we'll keep you updated. Throughout the portal, what guys pop up on Miami's radar. But I like this hire. I know Gary's kind of skeptical on it.
I'm not skeptical. I didn't say I'm skeptical. I want Jay Lucas to be hugely successful. I just have never seen. Like these first-time head coach experiments at Miami have never worked in the past. I mean, we had you're
not skeptical, but you're skeptical. I love this.
Well, before Izubee was born, we've been through this before. They hired Frank Haith, who at that time was the best recruiter in the country, and it was just a disastrous few years of basketball for Miami. So listen, Jay Lucas is here because of his connections and his presumed ability to put together a roster. It's not as easy as it looks. We saw Jim Larinaga fail miserably last year putting together a team through the transfer portal. So this is not as easy as it looks. But we are pulling for him. Don't mistake me. Said just because I say it's risky, because it is. I mean, you hired a coach who has not had experience running a program anywhere in the past. He's just been an assistant coach at a few different schools, good ones, by the way. But this was not this was not without risk, and it'll either be a huge reward for Miami, or there could be some struggles along the way. But anyway, he's working very hard at recruiting. He's putting the team together. Izubee's in the lab, trying to keep up with everything that's going on. We will continue to bring you that coverage here in the coming days. But that's going to do it for today for Good Morning CaneSport. You've seen the streamer at the bottom of your screen. Your subscriptions allow us to do every single thing we do every day. If you're not yet a subscriber to CaneSport.com, please head on over to the website. Come join us. You can test drive the site for $1. And can't stress enough how much we need the whole Canes Nation to be behind what we do. Because
look at this. Look what's trending on Twitter. Hashtag Izubee replace Matt Shodell on Good Morning CaneSport. Please do it. Wow. 1 million people have signed the petition. Izubee, congratulations. It looks like I'm not on Good Morning CaneSport anymore. This is terrible news for me.
I'll just take over your screen.
I'm so happy for you, Izubee.
All right, we got rid of him. For Matt Shodell and Izubee Charles, I'm Gary Ferman. Thank you so much for joining us today, and we will see you next time, everybody.